We are sitting on what might be the craziest decision we have ever made. 4 ruined buildings in Tuscany. But the real story is how we found them and how they will be transformed into a dream wedding venue. We are going to find out whether a small Budapest panel apartment can somehow become a whole estate between the hills of Tuscany. I'm Attila.
And I'm Peťka.
And this is the Villa Marta Diaries. So, how did it all start? We've been talking about an Italian project for several years now, but it always felt like a distant dream, and we never really proceeded with it until 2025 summer. We already had experience in real estate, as we manage properties in Budapest, and every year we renovate several flats from scratch. But by that summer, we were starting to get tired of the same routine. The creativity was gone, and the Hungarian market also felt a bit chaotic. So we wanted to do something different. And then a buyer showed up for my grandma Marta's apartment, which I inherited from her. It's a small one-bedroom apartment in the suburbs of Budapest. I lived there for several years and we renovated it. And for many time, this was my only financial safety net. So selling it felt a bit heavy, but we knew that we want to do something special with that money, because normally I would reinvest everything into the company, but this time it was different. And then we faced the question, should we play it safe or
Should we chase a dream?
Yeah. Instead of making the smartest investment on paper, we wanted a love project. Something we would do for pure excitement. So we visited again the old dream, buying a property in Italy and turning it into a destination wedding venue. But not just any property. Okay, alright, so are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Italian project. Let's go. I think both of us have an idea. So let's talk through it and let's write down a checklist. Because everybody loves a good checklist, right, Kevin?
Yeah, okay. So the first thing I think should be that we want something rustic, something authentic. Mm-hmm. So look for some old Italian farmhouse or villa.
Okay, I imagine like exposed brick or those old stone buildings.
Yeah.
All right, I write rustic and authentic. I think it should have an easy access to Budapest, especially as we will be traveling up and down.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
You should check the budget airports.
Yeah.
Like the one close to Milano, which is actually in Bergamo.
Mm-hmm.
So in that area, check close to Pisa, close to Bari. These are the ones which I remember they have direct flights from Budapest.
Okay.
But we should definitely check what other airports there are, which are like easily accessible and not expensive.
Okay, and how far are we talking? What's still comfortable for our guests?
I think 1.5 hour is the optimal, or like less than that. But I think if we find something a bit further, I don't mind, but I think the optimal should be somewhere around that.
Okay, so 1.5 hour budget airport.
Yep.
Cool. Now for me, and I'm sure for you too, it's important that it's gonna be like within the nature. There are gonna be trees around, maybe a little bit of forest, maybe no neighbors or just not close.
When we were checking the Hungarian wedding venues, that was one of the main selling points, which we saw. Like, if it's close to forest, nature, then like they were between one of the top sellers. So yeah, that definitely.
All right, nature.
And then the other thing, what we saw is that if it has some nice view, some nice panorama, it also put it between one of the best sellers. So then we should also like try to look for ones with some nice view.
Yeah, like the rolling Tuscan hill,
Yeah.
the century-old.
Or some sea view close to Bari, yeah, something like that.
Sea view. Okay. I don't know. What else?
I think what we should still look out for is to have enough building volume already from the beginning, so we don't need to ask new permits. Because I don't think we will be able to get any new building permits easily. And also it's not gonna be rural or authentic anymore. So we should definitely look for something with multiple buildings already.
Okay. So like at least 2, maybe even more?
I think it depends on the size, but we should have enough for the hospitality, for the event venue, and something for us as well. So
for us?
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Excited?
Yeah, sure. Are you?
Yeah. So
okay.
Let's get to it. Let's get to the search.
All right.
After scrolling through Italy's endless listings, one property caught our eye. We read and watched everything about buying a property in Italy, what can go wrong, and what hidden problems to look for. We also searched for backup options because we didn't want to fall in love with one place too early. But the more we looked, the more that first property kept pulling us back. And with that came a new worry. If it looks this perfect online, what's the catch? 3 days later, we had a flight to Pisa. We landed in Pisa late in the evening and drove into the Tuscan hills towards an agroturismo near the property. In the dark, it really felt like we were heading into the middle of nowhere. The next morning we had some time to kill before the property viewing, so we decided to explore the area and check out the closest town, Pomarance. Completely caught us off guard. Up until then, our experience with Italy had mostly been limited to big cities like Milan and Rome. We did didn't know what to expect. But seeing the quiet everyday charm of a small Tuscan town was a completely new experience for us. And then finally, the time has come. Well, we finished with the viewing. We spent here 2 hours with the real estate agent and 1 hour after that alone right now. And the real estate agent brought a geometra and a translator with him, which was pretty handy for all of our questions.
We had a lot of questions.
And also for the language barrier, because in Italy it's not that common to speak English, as we see. But the place is just it's beautiful. It's much better in many ways than what we expected. Yeah. Also, it's so much ruined.
Yeah, it's more ruined than we expected for sure.
Yeah, but the buildings are huge. Like it's also the scale, I think, is bigger than how it feels on the photos, and the nature. Like it's that we didn't really get from the pictures, that how well it's surrounded with nature, how big and old the trees are, which were like a really big plus, especially compared to all the other options which we were checking.
Yeah, and although it's almost autumn, everything is green.
Yeah.
It smells so fresh here.
Yeah, and the weather is beautiful. It's much better than
So much better.
in Hungary.
We are
So
in
that's
short sleeves, or I mean, you are, and warm.
Yeah, and we figured out many extra things about the property. There are some extra terraces in the back with some retaining walls, which can become very handy.
The little cave.
Yeah, there is the property has its own cave on the land with a spring inside. Yes, that was also like really magic, or at least added to this whole magical.
Yeah, maybe it will
vibe
be
of
a
the place.
disaster, but for now it's cool that it's there.
Yeah, I don't know how much it's gonna cost to support that cave, so it remains in a good shape. But yeah, overall, it's definitely yes, or it's like even better than what we expected. The work is tremendous.
Yeah.
What we're gonna have here, but we already see what we want to put where and how the whole idea is getting together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely have a vision for the place already.
Yeah. So yeah, now we are waiting for some feedback from the owner, because we said that yes, we are interested in it, and then we are gonna start to prepare an offer for it. So yeah, that's what's coming. The next day, we visited another city close to the property, the historic town of Volterra.
To be honest, I was mostly expecting Twilight vampires. But what we actually found was a beautiful town looking out over the rolling Tuscany hills and terracotta rooftops. If you are ever driving through this part of Tuscany, it is absolutely worth the detour.
Later that day, we got some news. We are back at the Agroturismo after the viewing, and we finally know what's the twist in the whole sales process, because originally the property was advertised with an optional 8 hectares of land to be bought later on, but now the owner said that he wants to sell everything altogether, which does raise the whole purchase price by a lot. And after seeing the property, it does make sense that he wants to sell together, and we also want kind of the lands around it. But what we are prepared to pay for it is almost half of what he's asking. So it's a bit tricky. And we've been trying to collect some good points for the negotiations to justify why we are only willing to pay that amount, and try not to be disrespectful.
Yeah, and not to get the offer just dismissed because it's such a low ball number. Yeah. Don't want to sound crazy, but it does make sense with the winter coming up. Like, the time is also an important essence, but if he waits for another buyer, the state might get worse. Also, as it's been on market for a long time, it got more and more ruined. So yeah, I think it makes sense, but it just sounds a bit crazy. So now we're a bit worried. We are sending out the email now, and fingers crossed.
And fingers crossed that let's hope he's going to accept it, or at least get into some negotiations.
Yeah, we have a hard day ahead of us because Attila is really impatient, and if I imagine what you're thinking, what he's gonna be thinking, but let's hope for the best.
Yeah. To keep our minds off the property, we hopped in the car and headed out to spend the last day in Florence. Florence ended up being exactly the distraction we needed. By the time evening rolled around, we were completely exhausted. But just as we were walking back to the car, my phone has suddenly pinged.
So you happy?
Yeah, you know?
Yeah?
Where is she? I need to tell her. Something shy. We got an answer from the owner.
Pardon?
We got an answer from the owner.
Yes?
140 is the counter offer.
140.
And this is the beginning of the Villa Marta Diaries.